Thanks. Yeah. Uh, Witam Kraków. Did I say it right? Uh, yeah. Today I'm here to talk about drawing the line between third-party and custom code. So drawing the line between multiple or two things that you have enjoyed can be sometimes like very, very tough, right? And it's not only in web development where we gotta make like these decisions between things. It's something that we encounter everywhere, like anywhere. And for this reason, besides like different experiences and how we grew up, like how we are influenced by a variety of different opinions, as a developer or a software engineer, we are constantly thinking about like how we write code. And this means we are continuously making many, many decisions without even noticing it, right? So from my side, one of the toughest decisions in my career so far was the switch, like between, like from being a employee working for a company to switch into like a independent software engineer. So that's me. Like, my name is Glenn Reyes. I'm an independent software engineer based in Vienna. I'm basically from Philippines, but I've always lived in Vienna and was born and raised there. And I do work for myself. I do a little bit of like, I help some clients with stuff like React and GraphQL, and that's also like my day-to-day job that I do. And I also help co-organizing the React Vienna meetups. So if you ever get the chance to come to Vienna, maybe feel free to like reach out so we can maybe figure something out. And I came in yesterday, and it's also my first time here in Krakow, or Kraków. And I've been here, I think, around 3 times in Warsaw there. But so I kind of love the movement here in Poland and the web and tech in general. So it's pretty nice. And yeah, in case you want to give me a follow on Twitter, I'm also Glenn Reyes, but without the E's on Twitter. Now, why do we love building applications? Why are we even gathered here to listen to all these amazing talks about everything? So, besides hearing about new ideas, this is basically me. Like when you hear something about that came up just shortly, it's kind of like you get kind of like this exciting feeling. And I mean, in my early years, it was kind of like tough, but now it's amazing like to see the vibe and the movement, especially when we create something new, right? It's just, you know, it sparks joy to you. It brings you like a lot of happiness in your life. And besides happiness, I mean, this is actually my face. When I think about React over the years, ever since I've been using it, right? So I admire like every single library that is evolving. And you gotta watch like, for example, how Angular or how Vue or React has become now to a state what it is now. And it's still like growing and growing. And people love open source and the space of being like able to use software for free. And being able to contribute back has been absolutely amazing. It is absolutely stunning to see many different ideas from libraries that are created from smart people like you, like from all over the world. And I love this quote by the Dutch post-impressionist painter Vincent van Gogh, which is, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. And it often happens over time that great things are done and taken from these ideas that happens from the past. So this is like really, really nice. And in open source, we'll find it like a lot, like really a lot, and especially in small things. And often when we encounter like things like libraries, frameworks that are very similar, but they're still yet like a little bit different, right? Which leads us back again to the question, which one should I use? Like, what way should we go? So we're back at like drawing the line, make a decision, and choosing between the libraries, frameworks, etc. Now, let's take a step back and ask, how do we actually decide on things? what is going on step by step during this procedure. For example, when it comes to choosing the right form library in React, first you probably do is you'll open Google and then make your research, and then you'll find a couple of candidates like Formic, Final Form, and Redux Form, or maybe just vanilla, and then get an idea of what can do X better than Z, or what does X makes easier in life than Z. And it's similar when you choose like a data library. You have Moment, and then you have Date.fns, Date.js, Luxon, or just go with the native API. And you ask here, like, what is the smallest library? Does one support all my desired APIs that I've wanted to use? Like, how well documented is and maintained is X, Y, Z, right? And then the same goes with ID generators. Like, what are the differences? Which one fits more for, I don't know, Postgres databases or GraphQL objects? And I found to make like really, really good decisions is not as easy as you think. And it really takes some time until you find a way that is reasonable and comfortable to make. So making decisions are really, really hard and time-consuming. Now, I want to share some approaches that I did or even still do when it comes to like checking out a new library. And I have to admit, I definitely have still to get a little bit better at that. But yeah, let's start. So one approach is, just pick the first, and if that's okay, try it out. And if there's something else that you don't like, or it has something that won't work for you, then say bye and pick the next. And this approach is not so bad, but after doing this like the 10,324th time, you're like, damn it, it's still not working. And then you try out with the next approach, like which is carefully like looking into a library, and then make a thoroughly and profound research into the library, like checking every single API it has, who was the author, what was the intention actually, why this exists. And then you start like to inspect and spy and kind of like being creepy about it, and spend half the day like just finding out what the library actually does. And you do the math, like you basically check out the theory, you make all the research and everything, and you basically get obsessed and crazy about the entire construct of a library. And mostly what I do is I end up just being completely exhausting. And like instead of shipping something, all I was able to do was I was learning too much about it, but forgot what I actually wanted to do. So I often bump into the situation where I think a lot more about what I need over of what my users need with the product, which is essentially more important, right? This is the reason why we build apps. We build not apps just only for me, myself, but maybe for my colleagues or maybe for our essential users. And lastly, why not just roll your own thing and do it, like implementing like crazy, you know? But then time is running away from me. I'm rolling some of my own ideas, and it will cost some time. And not only time, but also many other aspects. For example, like also time for maintain the library, or time for spending like bug fixes and all kinds of that. So our job as a developer and engineer is to find the right balance intrinsically. And it doesn't matter whether you are a developer or an engineer or a software architect or a DevOps code monkey or a Marvel Ninja Hero developer, magician, developer, avocado, DevRel guy, or banana. It doesn't really matter. In any case, we do make this kind of like architectural decision, whether you know it or not. So we make decisions that we have learned to make as a engineer and developer. And we do like also this kind of like micro decisions, even we don't notice it. And we do it because it happens like intrinsically. It's just the way we are, right? And for the some we do notice they can be pretty hard to make. And if we spend like less time for that, for the things they are not like well thought out enough, they can lead to huge and costly problems. Now, let's take a look to some like serious aspects when it comes to such decisions. So there is, for example, complexity. Like, like, does it solve my simple to-do app problem nicely, or what does the browser support look like? Or how about speed? Like, which one loads faster? Does it meet all the loading time budgets? And then there's API size. Like, can I set up a performance budget for size? How many issues? Like, how many bugs does it have? Are these bugs like critical to me? And dependencies. Like, do I have a like complete good look at my dependencies? Like, documentation. Like, how well it's documented? Can my new colleague read it or understand what is basically available? And time and the development environment. Like, is there any plugin ecosystem around it, the library that I'm using? And also actually license, like, can I actually use it in my company? I had actually a client where they had like a dedicated legal team that were looking only for like licenses and if the library was basically legally available. So probably you want to use something, but you cannot because of legal reasons. So let's touch a few interesting aspects, like how can we measure complexity? And here's an interesting snippet that I came across by Kenzie Dodd's talk at React Amsterdam. And so there is the Toggle class implementation of jQuery. And it's basically just a function that has like an if condition element.classList, and then else, and then inside like the if condition, like the if element class list, then call the toggle function, and then else do the same thing, but you know, code it by hand, like toggle, and then push the class name, and if not, yeah, pull out the class name and all that. So it's basically done manually. And if you take a closer look at this part, you might be wondering, hey, wait a minute, what is actually now happening here? Like, does this code actually run at my users does this code actually run when my users use my app? And you got to check the browser support at canIuse.com, and it's pretty green, right? And unless you want to support the user that has the like unstable browsers like IE6 or something, then this code might be actually useful for you. But I think most of us, probably this would be just fine. And effectively, you can just use a native API in the end directly. So check for complexity. How much useless parts does the in the source code exist for my users? Now, another important aspect is like the size. And how do I determine actually if the bundle size is like fine for my users? So one is bundle phobia, which is really good. That shows like minified and minified gzip size. And I found it useful to get a little bit of an idea of how big the library is, and in contrast of how much like the API I'm using it. And there's also like a nice plugin for VS Code that shows you like the bundle size right next into your import. So you may want also check this one out. And you may also want to measure performance, especially when it comes to something like comparing something with something else that potentially saves you time and performance for the app. So there is already like nice built-in browser tools like the Chrome DevTools that gives us already so many like options to benchmark our performance. Like here we can check for the actual size, what protocol it runs, and see the loading times and get a brief overview of like the waterfall request. And we have also like built-in tools like for auditing and our page like Lighthouse from Google. And it's absolutely amazing that this tool can help us like finding critical problems and can suggest us what to do and how to fix the problems. For the Webpack users, we have Webpack Bundle Analyzer, the plugin, which helps us like to visualize big libraries, smaller libraries, or maybe even duplicate libraries. For example, often, in my case, I had like Lodash in maybe 10 different versions, and you may want just try to find or try to like use only one version, or maybe decrease like more of them. So this is also a nice way like to find out like some hanging fruits around. And there's also the ones for Webpack performance hints, which can show you like Webpack performance impacts as a warning in your terminal, which is pretty nice. And getting it right and getting more a bit about decision making, this all will takes time, and especially on the web, where we see libraries every single day. And although we see the vibrant movement in web development, it's good to keep in mind that we don't have to use the newest and greatest library that just came out. It's fine to just use what works best for your team. So use whatever solve most of your use cases. And it's amazing that to use and contribute back that comes from open source community especially. We see like very, very popular libraries are being actively maintained by both like dedicated open source devs and devs who are just passionate about the tools, right? And if you use something from open source, and it's likely that you get stuck or you have some questions, it's likely that your bug has probably fixed elsewhere, and it's also likely that your questions are being answered very quickly. So getting help for free is just really, really powerful. And why is it powerful? Like, or better, what makes people feel so powerful? And it's not only like money, nor it's our status, or no, it's our pizza or coffee at home. It's basically people love fixing bugs in other people's code. So you don't always have problems in your code. You gotta find the problems in other people's code. So this is kind of like a relieving feeling to solve them, right? That's why people love solving problems. And without problems, we would probably be both unhappy and broke at the same time, because if there was no problems in web development, we wouldn't have any jobs. Why would we now code something if everyone would be happy? So how are problems solved in web development? Again, the aspect that I've touched many times is by making decisions. So they're simply anywhere. And how to decide now what library to use? Also, how can I find out if the library that I intend to use is potentially too much? Simply, if the tool that you need is just something that you open the screw. If I want to open this podium, then I probably need just only this. I don't need this for just open the tool. So unless you have like tree shaking or something configured, or anything that can drop unused code in the production build, you should only use maybe at the Lodash case, like Lodash dot sort by or Lodash dot camel case, and don't take the entire Lodash, for example, right? And also, if you're unsure what you're actually using, look into the source code. So it gives you like a better feeling of what will actually be going on your production code. And also, your node modules folder, look into that. This one is your friend, right? It's not only there because you hate it, it's just there because this is probably most of your code where it's happening. And besides, if you feel that the library is the right thing, but at the same time it's also not, you're always invited like to file an issue. Like let the maintainers know about your problem. Like give them ideas and improvements of the library, what can be done. And the worst case, what can happen is it gets ignored and you can fix it for yourself. And best case, you land a merged API and you potentially could help like thousands of other developers in the world by just fixing or by just sending the improvement that you've contributed. So propose ideas and improvements. Now, should I pick the most popular library? This is an interesting question. And before we're gonna going more into the question, what makes a library popular? And what is actually popularity? So I think most of us use GitHub, and GitHub stars as an indicator of popularity. And some use or combine this with maybe active maintenance of a library, and maybe like checking out the community, like how active are they, how many people are talking about it, and how, like, what kind of platform are like is the library like present on the different platforms? Like are people talking about it on Twitter, Stack Overflow, or Spectrum, or wherever? And another indicator what can also be useful for measuring performance could be like npm downloads. So this one is npm stat, but yeah, this is cool. This is nice for like getting a little bit of a grasp of something, but it can be also like screwed because downloads happens also in CIs and stuff. So this often leads to like false positives. You can also look up on Google Trends to get a grasp of what people tend to use. But biggest drawbacks here also are this works only for like popular frameworks, or it's not good for like tiny libraries that you just publish in npm. And now to get back to the question, should I pick basically the most popular library? And personally, although I feel it feels quite right to do and makes fun, and it's also quite like more tempting to do, I wouldn't feel comfortable to give like a positive answer here. So, and how about like writing my own? And similar here, it just really depends. And one of the most noticeable benefits here are by rolling your own, you'll be able to write the code in the exact way or how you need it, and how you want the piece of code to be written. You have basically like 100% full control over everything. And yeah, having something that you have fully control of is kind of like both good and bad. And it also is your like kind of like responsibility to maintain it for free and keep track of the code. So you as the author can also decide whether this code can be reasonably open source or should be better private. And only, of course, if your company allows it. And personally, I think there is almost zero reason why any of the code should be closed. So probably there are some, but I haven't like encountered really like real ones. So maybe it's just me. Now that we have talked about a lot of things, what is now the right decision? And I think it's useful to spend less time on thinking about decisions, and most of the time it's absolutely fine to just let our gut feeling driving what feels kind of like balanced, right? So find the right balance from your view, and everyone has like different opinions and experiences, and discuss and try to find like a solution that makes us happy. This is our main goal, right? And although I just said we shouldn't think about too much about decisions, I still find it's very important to understand the importance of the decision that we make, even if we don't make it intrinsically. Like, and there's basically no right or wrong. It's just every decision that we make effectively can vary at a time. And here we should be mindful of the fact that we don't really know what requirements will be placed upon our code in the future. So if you make a decision now, it doesn't mean that the decision that you made now is still valid in half a year or so. And I also think that any library that has the capability to reduce the risk or negative impact is already a win and definitely worth to take a look at. So in general, we should keep in mind that what we want is, we want to try to get the best outcome, but reduce the potential risks. If the library solves at least like, or solves about around 80% of the problem, then it's also already worth to consider. So the Pareto principle sort of applies here as well. So nevertheless, decisions have to be made, whether we want it or not. And not only making decisions, but you probably make good ones, right? So try to strive for making good decisions. And not only good is enough, you probably may want to discuss them. So make sure the decisions are like clean, discussed, and well thought out. And try to make decisions that feel right. Find out if they give you a positive impact overall. And right doesn't always mean it's right. Sometimes going the other direction, sometimes going the default decision is smarter than going the right one. So make sure they're reasonable, right? So deciding on things that can always be argued, why is like this and that, right? Also keep in mind that every time we add more code into the library, we increase the spectrum for new bugs. So every single line we add into our code means more work, more bugs, more maintenance. So don't always go for the safest path. Try taking risks. Take risks and keep more forward. Take risks and be creative. And don't forget, if you create something, always start simple. Don't take the most complicated thing because it's just the safest thing. Safest thing doesn't mean that you have to use this thing. Use the thing that you just need for now. And things are free for a reason. So there's a reason why things are being open sourced. Don't always use the latest and greatest that work for you. Keep good practices that worked in the past. So if you're in React, maybe higher order components are still fine, or render props is still fine. Just use whatever is fine for you. You don't have to use it because it's new. Like, think maybe more from the inside, like what makes you more productive? What is more enjoyable in your work? And don't let new things intimidate you. Use what worked best for you and your team. So for example, in React, with the new React hooks, class components won't go anywhere. So they will still be there. So keep using them. It's just fine. You don't have to replace now your entire class components codes. And yeah, write the best code possible. Because one day, the old code becomes legacy. And if they are great, we'll enjoy them even more. And it's just great if we have something great written in the past that we can still use it today. And use what worked best for you and your team. Like keep using what you know best. Do keep using that what works fast and efficient for you. And this is my last one. Most importantly, never stop learning. But more importantly, never stop learning new things. Thank you.